Hello, this is Steve with this week's Cambridge video. A bit of writing this week, something I've been doing in class with my year 10s, my 15, 16-year-olds. We are focusing on essay writing on the topic we're studying at the moment, which we might call empathy, hidden figures, the film we're watching. And I thought, yes, this works well because this is a useful class that I taught. And I'm calling it Putting Together an Essay because I've got many videos about writing an essay, about different parts of it, planning, the criteria. What we're focusing on today is I'm giving you all of the pieces, the little Lego bits, and then you're going to put them together in the correct way to write a good essay. So we're going to start with this little starter. This is from one of the old B2 trainer books, I think, that are free online. You need to complete these sentences in these bubbles using these words to get 8 useful introductory phrases for giving your opinion, because in many essays you will be giving your opinion. This is super easy, so let's go through it. Within my opinion, I believe that, it seems to me that, in my view, as I see it, I would say, most people would agree, and personally I think. This topic is something about how young people spend their free time. That could be an essay topic, but it's not the topic we're doing today. You've noted down these phrases, and we're going to move on to look at today's topic, because this is our question today from an old B2, an official Cambridge practice resource. It's a nice question, something that young people should be able to write about and have an opinion on. It's the question in the top right. Teenagers are too young to teach other people about anything. Do you agree? Write about technology, the environment, and your own idea. So these are the ideas from my students in class, which I have summarized, and your task is to write these out in full. We are going from this stage of having an idea to making a sentence that could go in your essay. This is sort of like the planning stage. What am I going to write about in my essay? Well, can young people teach other people about technology? The obvious answer is yes, they can. How? Develop it. Give an example, give a reason, justify it. All of these functions that you need to do in a good essay. So what I'd recommend you do is you try and write these sentences in full based on what my students said. They are points that will go in the essay about teenagers teaching other people things. For example, number 1, in my opinion, young people can teach their grandparents to use an app for a doctor's appointment. Or doctor's visit. I wrote visit because it fits on one line, but appointment is a nice word. In fact, I believe that they can show the elderly many useful things to do with a mobile phone. It seems to me that the older generation didn't take care of the environment, so now younger people can give them tips on how to do better. Something like that is a clear point about teenagers teaching other people about the environment. You can see how I'm making clear points, answering the question using these introductory phrases. In my view, they can make sure they know how to separate the garbage into glass, plastic, paper, and organic waste, or whatever. A little bit of specific vocab for the question, right? Glass, plastic, paper, and so on. Now, your own idea, as you can see, there's different ideas that my students had, and I included all of them because I'm an inclusive teacher. As I see it, we need to teach our grandparents to work out and improve their flexibility. Young people probably know more about exercise. Exercise has become much more popular in the last 30, 40, 50 years. Young people know a lot about it. They can teach their grandparents about it to improve their flexibility. Good point from one of my students. I would say that youngsters can teach the elderly about new lifestyles. Linked to this generation is more tolerant, so they can share this with the elderly. And try and teach the elderly people to be, as I just said, inclusive and tolerant and open-minded and accepting. And personally, completely different point, I think that young people could teach languages as they are more bilingual. So we've got lots of ideas that can go in the essay. Now the question is, as we said at the start, putting them together. We're going to go back to a point I made in a video a couple of weeks ago. How are we going to write our introduction? Well, an introduction should give context to show we understand the idea of this question about young people teaching other people. We need to introduce the points we're going to make, technology, environment, your own idea. And we want to try and make it interesting. We want to try and make it so that the reader wants to continue reading the rest of the, in this case, essay. So my Introduction went something like this, and you can see how it fits these functions. It's often thought that young people do not have a lot to offer society. Okay, so this is the question about young people teaching other people about offering things to society. And I'm mentioning the fact that we normally think young people are only good for learning, not for teaching. Well, I'm showing I understand the question. This essay will argue that in fact teenagers can teach older people about technology, the environment, and health. What I'm going to talk about, very clear. And now, make you want to continue reading. If people listen to teenagers more, the world would be a better place. Oh, interesting. Imagine a world run by teenagers where we actually listened to the idealistic utopian views of teenagers. Interesting. How would this? I want to read more. That is the point. We're trying to make it slightly interesting. So I think that's a good introduction. And then we're going to skip ahead to the conclusion, because you can see hopefully what we're doing here. We're putting it together piece by piece. A conclusion should summarize what we've said, right? Conclude what we've said, and finish with something interesting. Obviously link to the task, but finish with an interesting note that leaves a good impression on the reader. Not something so boring as, well, I just said it, so I just said it. Yeah, but can we be a bit more? Can you leave me with a more interesting note, a good feeling when I finish reading? In my case, to conclude, there is no doubt that young people's knowledge of technology, the environment, and healthy lifestyles could benefit other people. Right, that's what I just said, isn't it? The 3 things I just said. The big problem is trying to get adults to pay attention to them. So okay, I'm zooming out and trying to focus on the big picture and saying, yes, they can help, but adults need to pay attention to them. So I'm, again, showing the general question and showing an extra little point about it. So that's my nice conclusion. So we have got an introduction, a conclusion, and lots of sentences with introductory phrases that we can put in the body. Hopefully you can see what we need to do now is write the essay using my introduction. Feel free to use it like that. Change it a bit if you're feeling creative. And my conclusion. And then 3 paragraphs, one about technology, one about the environment, one with your own idea, with examples of these kind of phrases. We've done most of the work, as you can, well, we, you, me, between us, we've done most of the work. I'm guiding you in how to put together a good B2 or even C1 essay. So that's your final task. Write it, put it in a letter, put a stamp on it, and send it to Santa Claus or whatever god you worship in your country, or send it to your teacher. Even that's actually a better suggestion, isn't it? Send it to a teacher. Normally teachers like receiving your work and will happily spend a couple of minutes looking at it in general to see how it is and to offer feedback and suggestions for improvement. So I hope that was useful. Come back next week for more of the same. Subscribe and comment and so on. And goodbye.